Hello everyone, I am Durgesh Sahani and we are creating tutorials for REST API development using JWT. So in the previous session we have seen our process API and validate parameters we have done with that, right? This process API function we have done and this validate parameters. I think one thing is remaining over here is default statement. So in default statement we'll say data type is not valid for this field name, okay, which is done now. And here whatever the email ID and password we are getting, we have to validate it from database. So we have to do we'll create one function, public data member db connect, and here we'll create an object of that class for connecting our database, new db connect, and $this db connection is equal to $db connect, which will return, as you can see here, we have this class and we have this method which will return the connection object, right? So we'll store it here and we'll use it all over the to work with the PDO database. Now this we have, and we'll prepare statement. We write a prepare statement, select star from table name which is user for us, where email is equal to email and password is equal to pass, and it will return PDO statement. So we'll create one variable PDO statement and we have to bind all these two parameters, email ID and password. So this have one function bind param. So which parameter you want to bind? So we have colon email with $email variable, and the next parameter is password, which is pass with pass variable. Now the next part is we have to execute these statements, right? We have to execute this SQL query. So for that we have one function execute, and after executing we have to fetch the data. So I'll create one variable user is equal to $statement and fetch function, and which accept one parameter, in which format do you want to get the data. So I'll pass fetch associate, so it will return the data into associative array format. I'll show you $user. If you go here and click on send button, we'll get this values, right? And for example, we are entering the wrong information, in that case we'll not get any data. So we have to validate this thing for user. If this user not is array underscore array $user, then we'll simply print the response $this return response, which accept two parameters. First one is invalid user and pass, right? So we'll pass this thing and message will be email or password is incorrect. Now we have to write this return function, which is here, right? So return function, return response will be the same like throw error. First we have to write header, and in header we have to pass content type, content type will be application / JSON. Now the second part, next thing is we'll create variable response is equal to same JSON encode, and the value will be response. This will be one array, and here we'll simply, as it going to be accept two parameters. First one will be code, status code, and second one will be data or response data, whatever you can say. I'll simply assign it to one more array, and we'll say status is equal to that code, comma, the second variable, whatever the data we are getting, and we'll say here echo dollar response and exit. Done. So if we go here and click on send, we'll get the message, we're getting this data like this. Okay, so one thing we have forgot here is we are passing this thing, and actually we have to create it an array, then only we can get the proper response. So it will be like this, and here we'll say message. We go again and say it will not work, so we have to pass it. We have to write it here only, status, and we can give it the value like result. On result it will be like this. So if you go again and say result, what are we getting at line number 22, API. Go to the API, line number 22, semicolon. Okay, email or password is incorrect, but if we give the correct information, in that case we are not getting any error. Okay, now the second validation is if this user is not active. In that case also, if $user active. If is equal to 0, if it is 0, in that case as well we'll throw some error $this return response, and the code will be code we already have for this user not active. User is not activated, please contact to admin or administrator. Like that we can show some message. So let's see now. Here we are getting the error, and if we create this thing for admin with password admin, then we are not getting any error. Now if everything is good, then we have to create a JSON JWT token. So if you go here and if you check into the JSON class, we have one function encode, and it accepts some parameters: payload, secret key, and algorithm, key ID, and head. So these are the optional parameters. If you provide only these two things, then also it will work, and the default algorithm it will take is this one. So we are going to work with this thing only. No need to pass this parameter from there. Only we have to care about these two parameters. So what they are doing is header. So if you have not provided anything, then it will take from here. See, type will be default JWT, and algorithm will be this thing, whatever the algorithm it is coming from there, or this one. Same thing, if you provided any header, then it will simply merge it into the header. Now this is the actual part. Segment, what they are doing, they are encoding it first into the JSON, whatever the header is. They are creating JSON for that, and then they are passing it into the this function as argument. And if you notice this function, so what they are doing is here simply they are using base 64 encode function, and after that, and simply returning it from there. So if you see, the header is done. Same they are doing for payload, and they are calling this function and doing some operations, and this will be our signature. So now the signature is created within this function. If you go here and check, so whatever the algorithm you have provided, by using those algorithm, they are creating these things and returning it from here. So now same thing they are doing for signature, and finally they are imploding it by this dot. So finally it will be your token with dot separator. So we have to call this function encode function, and if you notice, it is a static function, so we can call it directly from here like this: JWT scope resolution operator and encode function. And encode you have to pass basically payload, which you have to create, and the secret key. So I have created a constant for that secret key. The password is default password I have used here is test 123. So I'll pass it from here. And the third parameter you have to pass is algorithm, but if you want to use the default algorithm, then no need to pass that parameters. Now you have to create the payload, right? And this function will return the token. Now this statement is ready, but we have to create a payload. So, and payload will be an array. Payload is equal to, so at their site we already have seen some reserved claims, what they're calling it. We can use those things like that. First one is issue at, when you have issue it, right, when the token is generated. So we can use it, and there's one function time in PHP which will return the current time in timestamp format. Now the second parameter we can use is who have issued it. issuer. So for now we'll use localhost, and the third parameter we can use it expiry, when this token should expire. So for that we can use time function, which will return the current timestamp plus if we add 60 seconds, then it will be valid for 1 minute, and if you multiply by more 60, so it will be valid for 1 hour. So for testing purpose we will use 60 seconds only. Now the next parameter we will use is which will be our public claim, and we can use like user ID, and user ID will get from this variable user ID. Now payload is ready. If everything is good, then it will return some just print it. It will return your token, and I think we have to return this return response function, which we have not. Okay, we have written it. So here I have used header, which is application slash JSON, encoded it with response will be the main node, and then status, and then result is equal to whatever data you are passing. So from here, let's see now whether we are getting the token. At line number 29, here it should be comma. Token is equal to this thing, syntax error, unexpected token. Okay, so now we are getting our token. If you notice, this is the first part, which is header, this is the second part, which is payload, and this is the third part, which is signature. If you copy this, and if you want to verify whether this is your token, so you can go to the JWT.io, and if you paste it here, you can see you have provided type JWT algorithm default one, and we have specified some parameters, which is issuer at localhost, and the user ID is 1, and if you here you can see invalid signature. It will be pass only if you pass the correct signature. So correct key, actually, which we have secret key 1 2 3. Now you can see signature verified. So only the person have this key can verify this and can use can authenticate actually. Okay, now we simply create an data variable or anything. Data is equal to, we'll say, token and dollar token, and call that function again. This return response, the first parameter will be code. We already have code for that, success response, which is 200, and I think this is standard. And second parameter will be data. Now let's see. So here we go, status is 200, and result we are getting token. Now this token you can use for all your other web services for authentication purpose, and like how to, you have to pass it into the header section for other web services here, authorization and barrier. bearer. So actually this token will be used for all the other web services which you are calling by using header. So in the next session we will see how to use this token to validate your other web services without passing username and password. So no need to pass username and password again and again, just you need to pass this token. Thank you very much guys for watching.